Luis Castillo has cooled off over his last 4 outings. Why is that? We'll discuss in a moment here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Thursday, May 11th, 2023. This is Trident and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon by scanning the QR code that's right above my head. A link, as well as our social accounts, is also in the description of this episode. And on this episode, we'll discuss George Kirby's big night on the bump on Tuesday and how it appears that one of the Mariners' more exciting pitching prospects is making a highly anticipated transition into the bullpen and what that means for the team. But first, Colby, let's talk about Luis Castillo, who took his first loss of the year in yesterday's 4-3 defeat against the Texas Rangers. Relative to what our standards are for Castillo, his last 4 outings have been a bit of a disappointment, especially after a really good start to 2023. We were talking about pitcher of the month, potentially early Cy Young favorite, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That hasn't really been the case over the last 4 starts. Again, not saying that he's been awful by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly he hasn't been the guy that we saw in his first 4 starts. Since April 22nd, he's rocking a 4.91 ERA with a 3.54 FIP and a 1.41 WHIP, 26 strikeouts, 5 walks issued over 22 innings pitched. Colby, is there something you've seen out of Castillo lately that we can pinpoint as the cause for this dip in numbers?
No. Yes, I have some theories, but
Okay.
nothing concrete. One of the things I've noticed over the last few starts is that teams are being super aggressive on the fastball, particularly early in counts. They're not waiting around. They're not trying to get to 2 strikes against Castillo, which is probably a pretty good game plan. The other thing, though, in regards to the fastball, is it seems like there are a lot of foul balls off of Castillo the last 3 or 4 times out, which is really jacking up his pitch count, which is making it harder for him to go deeper into games. So yeah, he's just not really able to put guys away with the fastball right now, and teams are being super aggressive on it. It was pretty interesting yesterday. He barely threw the 2-seamer at all, which is kind of weird. That's a pitch that he needs to throw more, and I think he only threw it 4 or 5 times. So it was kind of an iffy game plan, I would say, but who knows? Maybe he just wasn't feeling it. But yeah, I think when you look at it, just from a macro level, the fastball value is not there right now. Teams have made an adjustment to him. They are going to be really aggressive on that pitch, and we know Castillo is going to throw his fastball a lot. So I think there's something that could change, is maybe a few more first pitch changeups, a few more first pitch sliders, which he had a pretty good changeup and slider against Texas. Command and control, not great, but in terms of just raw stuff, both those pitches were pretty good. So I think right now offenses are just attacking the fastball early, and they're sitting fastball with 2 strikes. And they're going to force Castillo to throw a good quality off speed pitch to strike them out, which, Castillo's still getting strikeouts. It's certainly not a K issue, but his pitch count is getting kind of out of control. Usually in 1 or 2 innings where he'll really struggle, and then the rest of the game he's fine. We saw it against Houston. We saw it against Texas. We saw it against St. Louis. So it's just one of those things where right now he's kind of trying to figure out how to combat this change that the league has made to him. The other thing that I seem to have noticed over the last few starts is that when he pitches from the stretch versus when he pitches from the windup, he's dominant. He looks like every bit the guy that we were talking about as a potential Cy Young Award winner. But when you get him in the stretch, his fastball command seems to go away. With the sinker from the stretch, it really feels like he's missing arm side badly. And unfortunately, if you're going to miss arm side against a right-handed hitter with a two-seamer, that's going to hurt somebody. That's going to hit somebody, or that's just going to be an easy walk, an easy take. But then on the other hand, with his off-speed stuff, he seems to miss more glove side when he's out of the stretch. So a guy who typically, Castillo doesn't have pinpoint command. He's just got really good stuff. But from the stretch, it's probably 50 command and then 55, 60 control, just the raw ability to throw strikes. But from the stretch, I would say that's probably 40 command, maybe 45 control. And that's an issue. So, yeah, I think, every time somebody gets on base against Castillo, I just kind of hold my breath because it's been a recurring issue here, I think, for the last, handful of starts, and a lot more guys are reaching base because they're being so aggressive on the fastball lately, that he's having to throw more pitches from the stretch. So I think that's something to keep an eye on, and something that he'll have to adjust as he goes forward.
Yeah, let's dive into the data here of his first 4 starts compared to his last 4 starts. So contact rate is up about by 3%. Whiff rate is down by 1.5% ish, around that area. But really what's concerning here is the quality of contact. Barrel rate is significantly higher than it was during the first 4 starts. 3.4% barrel rate during the first 4 starts. That's now up to 10.8% through his last 4 starts. The hard hit rate is about the same. I think it's actually, is it down? Yeah, it's down by a couple of ticks, but guys are putting the barrel on the ball a lot more consistently against Castillo, and the exit velocities are up by about 3 ticks, 91.4 miles per hour compared to, what was it, 88.9 miles per hour. Max exit velocity is up, and so that also is contributing to the issues a little bit here, is that he's just giving up better contact overall. And then to your point about him out of the stretch, which has been a conversation really ever since he's shown up in Seattle. I remember you distinctly talking about his struggles out of the stretch last year, particularly after that really bad start in Oakland that he had. And the numbers reflect that for sure here. So out of the stretch this year, and this is just overall numbers, this isn't last 4 starts, first 4 starts, any of that. It's just the whole season. With runners on base, or actually, let's start here. Let's start with runners with nobody on. Opponents are slashing 213, 255, 338, or 333 when Castillo is working out of the windup. Compare that to when he's working out of the stretch. Opponents are hitting 254, 299, 413. He's also, just missing less bats overall. And that's ultimately the problem here. Funny enough, he actually has a higher K per 9 out of the stretch than he does out of the windup, but he's still not getting those swings and misses that he really needs consistently enough. And yeah, so harder contact, not enough whiffs. These are ultimately the issues that are plaguing Luis Castillo right now. And I'm not really sure how you fix it, other than just you kind of write it out because it's Luis Castillo at the end of the day. And I mean, even though that these numbers are not great, they're mostly not great because they're relative to what our standards for Castillo are. And also with the way that your offense is playing right now, the margin for error is so little. So if that maximizes the struggles at the end, like ultimately here, like that's what really is magnifying all of this, is that your offense is not producing enough runs and not producing enough chances, or at least not taking advantage of those chances that it does create. And so Castillo basically has to be perfect or close to it every night that he goes out there. And when he's not, it makes it seem more like, oh, he's fallen off a cliff, he's struggling, when he really isn't. Guys like even the best pitchers in the world, they have, a few starts like this where they do struggle. Now, that's not to let him off the hook here, because there are, as we just went over, some numbers that do indicate some struggles, especially when he comes out of the stretch. But again, this isn't necessarily as simple as he's just bad, right? That's That's not what's happening here. That's not what we're trying to tell you here.
It's also worth noting that Castillo has traditionally had one, mediocre month every year of his career.
Sure.
And, I would say right now, the good news is that he's healthy and he's on track to make 30 starts for the first time in his career. So that's good. You'd rather have Castillo healthy and out there than not at all, even if he is going to struggle a little bit right now. But, again, keep in mind his struggles are still a 3.45 FIP. It's pretty good. So yeah, you just got to kind of avoid that one disaster inning, which he had in each of his last 2 starts, and he'll be fine. So overall, there's no reason to really panic about Castillo, but there are some changes that need to be made. And one other thing, I don't know, it just kind of popped into my head. So maybe this is just a total guess. Maybe he's tipping his pitches somehow. So that's
Possible.
other things that scouts will look at and they will adjust. So. We'll wait and see how his next outing goes. It will be against Atlanta, I think, on Friday night. No.
That seems very far away.
Yeah. Sorry.
They play Detroit.
Not going to be against Detroit.
Who do they play?
They play somebody in between Detroit.
Okay.
Boston. It'll be at Boston, Fenway Park.
We're huge. We're huge fans of the Mariners, clearly.
Yes. I'm sorry I don't sit there and stare at the schedule on May 11th.
Yeah.
So,
of course.
It'll be at Fenway Park, and we'll see. We'll see how he does. And I don't know. It's tough to judge any pitching performance in that. What's a nice way to say ugly, stupid ballpark? Historic ballpark.
There you go. Yeah, I can't wait for the annual Mariners score 7 runs in the first inning, then lose like 13-9 game. Mm-hmm. That's going to be fun.
Or, well, they already had that in Chicago, another historic.
Yeah, but it always happens at Fenway. I feel like maybe that's just my headcanon, but it does feel like there's like always a game like that at Fenway.
I'm more looking forward to them inexplicably being shut out at Fenway.
Yeah, that's the day game. That's the day game.
Always. Somebody lose 4-0 at Fenway Park with the wind blowing straight out. Yeah.
First game of the series is the blown lead. Last game of the series in the day and the sunlight is the shutout. Those are the narratives that I've created in my head at the very least here. I don't know if any of that is true.
They're leaving Fenway Park with a series win, so don't worry about it.
All right. And some Pepperidge Farm.
Don't belittle people from Boston, Ty. Ugh.
I don't want to promote any hate speech. That's for sure.
Okay.
All right, folks. Before we get into our next segment, talking about about George Kirby's big start on Tuesday night against the Texas Rangers, I want to tell you about So Rare. So Rare is our new sponsor, who we are incredibly stoked to have. And they are a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 Major League Baseball teams. And unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next level competitions and rewards. So Rare MLB game weeks happen twice weekly and span a 3 to 4 day cycle. And at the end of game week, So Rare MLB managers who rank at or near the top of their leaderboards win a variety of rewards, which can include So Rare scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. Prizes may vary depending on the competition. Head to SoRare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's SoRare.com/lockedon to start playing today. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. And tomorrow, the Mariners and the Tigers are going to get underway for their first of 2 series this year in Detroit in the Motor City. And if you can't watch the game, you can listen to it on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. So Yesterday, we ranted and raved about the offense and the struggles of this team against the Rangers in yesterday's game. And unfortunately, we overlooked a great start from George Kirby the night before. We haven't had a chance to talk about that since. 9 strikeouts for George Kirby. I talked about how, the last time we did a post-game show after one of his starts, how there's been a lack of strikeouts from George Kirby. He came through with a lot of them against this Rangers lineup, a good Rangers lineup. But overall, what did you see out of Kirby as he goes deep into another game for the Mariners? He's eating a lot of innings right now for the M's.
Yeah, what's interesting is when you watch this start, you think it's one of Kirby's best, and it certainly was a very good start. Let's not kid ourselves here. Texas is a really good offense. Wipe that smirk off your face. But when you look at the data, only 11 whiffs on the day, just 15 called strikes, only a 26% called strike plus whiff rate for Kirby. Which just feels weird because I believe 9 strikeouts ties his career high. So typically when you see things like that, you see more whiffs and more called strikes, but wasn't really the case here. When you look at the data, his spin rates were actually down for the most part in this start. So he wasn't spinning it particularly well. I think when you look at the data right now, though, or when you look at the data from the last start, the curveball and the slider were the difference maker here. We've seen Kirby dominate with a 2-seamer before. We've seen him have, 1 or 2 of these pitches. In this game, he had both. Both were working really well. He threw 23 curveballs. 18 of them were strikes. That's insane. He also threw 15 sliders. 12 of those were strikes. George Kirby throwing strikes. What? I know. Insane. Threw 100 pitches, 75 of them were strikes.
There's your thumbnail right there, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But they were all really quality strikes. There was nothing in the middle of the plate. He was on the edges or just outside of another, let's say, questionable strike zone by a home plate umpire. Surprise. And Kirby took full advantage of, every little extra inch or two that the home plate umpire gave him. He was well aware of it, and he took advantage. 75 strikes on 100 pitches, 101 pitches. He's just pounding the zone right on the edges all night long. And again, you throw 23 curveballs and 18 of them are strikes. I mean, wow. I'm sorry. Actually, I did my math wrong. It might be, I think it was 20 of them were strikes.
What? Colby did his math wrong?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
Wow.
I know, man. I know. So, yeah, the 2 off-speed pitches, he had both of them working. He was pounding the strike zone with both of them, and he was getting ahead of a lot of hitters. There was just the one inning where Texas was able to run his pitch count up a little bit by, stop me, you've heard this before, fouling off a bunch of fastballs. But Kirby, again, this is one of the outings where his command was better than his stuff. And you can see how far Kirby can go. We've talked a lot about how Kirby's stuff isn't like special. It's good. And his command plays up tonight, Tuesday night was the perfect example of that, because that's what we saw. A+ command and control, good stuff, not great stuff. And this is what can happen even against really good lineups for George Kirby when he has, his 65 grade command and probably 70 control on Tuesday night. This can be the norm for George. And, after a kind of a rough start here, to his season, his numbers right now look right in line. The only thing that's down a little bit is his K percentage. But yeah, I mean, obviously you have 2 of your last 3 outings were 15 shutout innings. It's going to help your numbers a lot. And Kirby looks like he's locked in. And honestly, he's probably your number 1 right now.
Yeah. And he has the most innings I should clarify that. Castillos had 1 more start, so right now he has the innings pitched lead at 46 2/3, but Kirby is just 2 innings behind him on 7 starts. So, I mean, that's kind of wild, right? I mean, like, I'm surprised and I'm not, because when you are someone that stays so in the zone as Kirby does, right? He doesn't throw a lot of balls in general. He's always in the strike zone. You're naturally going to have quick innings. And so your pitch count is going to stay relatively low as long as you don't get into trouble. And that's going to allow you to get deep into games. But still, if you asked me who was going to lead the Mariners in innings pitched to the first month and a half of the season, I wouldn't have guessed George Kirby, to be honest with you. I would have guessed Robbie Ray. I would have guessed Luis Castillo. So I'm a bit surprised on that front. But at the end of the day, it does make sense. I keep on saying at the end of the day. I've told myself to stop saying that. Me and my filler phrases. I hate it. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Anyway.
Ty's feeling kind of ranty in this episode. One other thing from Kirby. I felt like we saw a lot more.
It's about damn time, by the way, I think.
Whoa, language. We apologize for Ty's language. So yeah, one other thing I saw from Kirby on Tuesday, I thought we saw more 96, 97 than we have in the past. He did top out at 97. He's averaged 95.2. His year average is 95. So from an average, fastball velocity standpoint, nothing special, but I don't remember seeing much 96, 97 from Kirby all year. He seemed like he was pretty much topped out at 95. And I think we saw more than a handful of 97s in this game. So that's something to watch, but yeah, it was a really, really good start for Kirby. And again, command control stuff. That's the order you want to go in. Kirby, A+ command, A+ control. On this night, I would say probably his B+ stuff tonight or that night. And he shut down what is right now the best offense in baseball, over 7 scoreless innings.
Which is a wild stat considering, they have some good talent in there, but they're also missing Corey Seager. Like the back end of that lineup is on paper not inspiring, but
right. Yeah. But Jonah Heim's on a heater right now.
Yeah, he's been incredible.
Right. Ezekiel Duran's on a heater right now. Adolis Garcia's hitting like 330. We know that's not going to continue. Like they got some guys, they're like the opposite of the Mariners right now. They got a bunch of dudes on heaters and they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah. So Prelander Berroa, which would imply there is a Postlander Berroa out there, but Prelander Berroa has seemingly made the official transition into the bullpen. So we're going to talk about what that means for the Mariners in just a moment. But Steve Rogers over here, just wait a second before we get into Prelander Berroa, because we got to tell the fine folks about Game Time. Game Time is an amazing app where you can buy tickets to your favorite events, and that shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And Colby, that is the only time I will ever compare you to Captain America. Only time. This is the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Again, tomorrow, Mariners, Tigers get underway in the Motor City. Can't watch, listen to it on the Mariners hometown broadcast with SiriusXM via the SXM app. Do it. Do it now. Or, well, tomorrow night. Do it then. Actually, it's more like afternoon, right? It's like a 3:40 start. What is with these weird starts on the East Coast?
What is with this weird, like, jovial Algonquin round table you're going on right now? Like, so many just, like, what are you doing?
What do you mean?
Tighten it up, man. Tighten it up.
What do you mean tighten it up?
All these little tiny segues that go nowhere.
What are you talking about? Whatever.
Prelander Berroa, that implies there's a Postlander.
Folks,
come on.
Help me out.
Nobody cares.
Folks, help me out here.
Nobody
Shut up. Shut up.
Whoa. Plus, you're dropping the D-bomb and all that stuff on here. Like, yeah, I don't know, dude. You're on something right now. Because like this episode's off the rails. Anyways,
I didn't feel like it was off the rails.
It's by your standards, yeah. It's
let us know. Are we off the rails today? Am I not? Okay, am I off the rails today? Am I not buttoned up?
Ty's kind of like, he's kind of floating around a little bit right now. So we'll see. We'll see how the people in the comments feel. But I don't know, man. It feels to me like you're you're like, what's
And before everyone gets on to me about telling Colby to shut up, I mean, how many times has he told me to shut up on the show? I've lost count. So
I mean, nobody cares about that, Ty. Nobody. So
nobody. Yeah, of course.
I'm just saying it's been a weird day for you. But anyways,
All
let's
right.
talk
Well,
about
I'm just floating around in the breeze here, or whatever you said. Prelander Berroa. Just you know what? I'm just gonna shut up. You tell me about him. Tell us about Prelander Berroa. He made his first appearance out of the bullpen last night down in Arkansas. What does that mean for the Mariners moving forward? Or is this? I mean, is Berroa going to be a part of this bullpen soon? Is that what this
Yeah,
seems to indicate?
of course it does. Why else would they take him out of the rotation?
I mean, he's been bad out of the rotation. I mean, at least in terms of walks, like he's walked a lot of dudes.
Yeah, we already knew that. Like, there's nothing
Yeah,
about
but even
Prelander
more than
Berroa.
his career norms. Like it's been rough.
Yeah, but again, we already knew that, and the Mariners don't care. If the Mariners wanted Prelander Berroa to be a starter, they would keep him in the bullpen, even if he was walking, 7 dudes per 9. They don't care. They just want him to get innings. They want him to, I mean, as lame, they want him to get practice. How do you get practice? You pitch more innings. The more innings you pitch, the more reps you get. So that's what you would keep him in the rotation if that was your plan. It's not. Clearly, the Mariners' plan is at some point over the next, I don't know, 7 to 21 days, somewhere in that range. Certainly by the end of the month, they want Prelander Berroa to be up in the major leagues, pitching out of the bullpen for Seattle. Like, there's just no other reason to make this move. It's not, you're not benching a guy because he's struggling with walks, not in Double A. Like, that's not a thing. So, obviously, the only reason you're doing this is because you plan on calling him up soon and you want to get him used to, pitching every other day and, only going, 20 pitches and not having to pace yourself go 100 pitches. You want him to go back to back and learn what that's like. You want him to get into a rhythm. And we've seen the Mariners do this. They did it with Edwin Diaz and they did it last year with Matt Brash. So we kind of know the formula here. This isn't going to be, he needs 2 months to figure out how to pitch out of the bullpen. No, it's going to be, 2 to 4 weeks at most. And he's going to be up in the big leagues throwing, his filthy, 90-mile-an-hour sliders that are 70 grade and his really heavy fastball that's 97 to 100. How much of that will he throw for strikes? Anybody's guess, but it's wicked stuff. And as we saw from Matt Brash more last year than this year, you don't have to throw a ton of strikes when you have that type of stuff. And Berroa, in terms of just raw stuff, might be number 2 in the entire org behind Matt Brash when you factor in control and command. Ooh.
Yeah.
So Berroa's going to be up with the big leagues by the end of this month. I have very little doubt that he will make his major league debut.
So 2 questions, really. This is the best.
They're both dumb.
And, sure. And not only are they dumb, but they're probably also connected, maybe. One, this is the best pitching staff in baseball statistically. Do they need to do this?
Why not?
Actually, 3 questions. Why would they do this? And does this concern you at all about Andres Muñoz's recovery? Or do you think this is connected at all to that?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, because like they've called up 110. They're taking shots right now on their young guys. I mean, they have like veteran depth if you need to just filter guys through the bullpen. Instead, they're taking these big time shots with 110 with Prelander Berroa potentially here.
I haven't taken the shot with Berroa yet, but I think that's more about the guys who were supposed to be in the middle, the Topas, the Spire, those guys. They're now high leverage options. You're kind of moving Matt Brash down that totem pole because you can't trust him right now. And so they need to replenish the middle options because thankfully the guys who you thought were going to pitch the middle innings, they're now your best. They're now your high leverage arms, which again, not how you draw it up, but when you're throwing the ball as well as Topa and Spire are right now, fine, whatever. You'd rather have it that way. So I think this is just more about replenishing the middle. And if you can get yourself into a position where, your middle guys would be 8th inning guys on most other teams, like Berroa would be, then I think you're in a really good spot. So I think for me, it's about, look, we have these guys right now who are pitching really well. We trust them in high leverage spots. Let's get 110 up here. Let's eventually get Berroa up here. Let's see what these guys have. And if these guys, we think maybe they could become high leverage, and you're just trying to build out this really big bullpen. But because you have your high leverage arms in place now, you can take a shot on Berroa, you could take a shot on 10, and if they don't work out, fine, whatever. It's a middle reliever. You're not counting on this guy to pitch huge innings for you. And if they both continue to, well, in 10's case, if 10 continues to get outs like he has so far, and Berroa comes up and shows that he can be Matt Brash last year, then you're in a great spot. And also, let's not pretend that the Mariners don't have spots in their bullpen that they can give right now. Chris Flexen's still on this team. Right. Taylor Saucedo is still on this team.
Chris Flexen pitched with the game within 2 runs yesterday.
You think that was their first choice? No,
it's not. That was not ideal.
No,
it
not.
Went fine. So, it went fine, but not.
It went fine. Sure.
Not what I want to see. Though,
that's not what their plan is. So yeah, obviously they want those guys. And also it tells me that they think Berroa was no longer in their rotation depth. Berroa had clearly been, jumped over by Miller, although that was probably the case already. Hancock, Wu, and even a struggling Taylor Dollard. They would all feel better about than, handing the ball to Berroa and asking him to go 5. This was always going to happen with Berroa. Yeah. He never had the command to be a starter. His stuff is plenty good, and he actually has a decent changeup that'll throw on occasion. But you can't have 30 command and 35 control and be expected to go 5-6 innings against big league teams with regularity. So this was a move that was always going to happen. I don't think this is too early. I don't think this is too late. I think it's just about right. And we'll see. I don't know if they're going to try and get him back-to-backs before they call him up or anything like that. I think they didn't do that with Diaz, but they did do it with Brash. We'll see. It could be, like I said, it could be a week. We could see him on the next homestand. We could see him at the end of the month. Who knows? But I do think Berroa is going to be up, and I do think that he's got a really good shot to stay with the team all year. And honestly, I think the move, probably Chris Flexen, UDFA Flexen. But one thing I would look out for, watch out for Matt Brash being sent back to AAA Tacoma, because he's got some things he has to work on. He has not been good this year. I know the FIP and all that stuff say he's been really good this year. He hasn't. You guys watch him. The command is even worse than it was last year. The stuff's all over the place. He needs help. And pitching him in the middle of a major league lineup, with your team kind of, trying to keep their heads above water, it's not going to help the team, and it's not going to help him. And, honestly, you could send Brash down and maybe put him back in the rotation. Remember, the Mariners wanted Brash to be a part of this, rotation battle, at least in theory. They wanted him to be stretched out when he came to camp, and then he decided he was going to pitch for Team Canada. And so they nixed that idea. Just watch out for Brash. You might go down to AAA, start, again, get more reps by throwing more pitches in a situation where you don't care about the results, and maybe he can figure something out with his command and control, because all Brash has to do to be an electric bullpen option for you, 45 control and command. That's it. You can still be well below average. He can't be 30 like he is right now. Can't have it. So don't be surprised if Matt Brash is the move for Berroa in a couple weeks. But I think if I was betting, I'd probably still bet Chris Flexen is the move.
Yeah, I think that should be the move. While it hurts me as a Matt Brash stan, I do agree that there are things that he needs to work on. And if I saw that they sent him down to AAA, I would understand it. I would get it, because there are some things that he needs to work through here.
Would you trust, game on the line, would you rather have Trevor Gott on the mound or Matt Brash?
Gott right now.
That's the end of the discussion. Brash doesn't need to be in the bullpen if that's an accurate statement.
Yeah, Brash, I mean, the upside is insane, but
sure,
the floor is
the possibility of him going a third of an inning, walking 3 guys and giving up a double, and giving up 2-3 earned runs.
The floor is, you guys know Rock Bottom and SpongeBob, the cliff from Bikini Bottom to Rock Bottom.
Here we go.
That's the floor for Matt Brash.
Okay, we got a wrap, Ty. You're officially off the deep end. Huh? No? Kept it nautical. We're like 2 minutes away from Ty singing the SpongeBob theme song.
Are you ready, kids?
See, he's well off his rocker today.
Apparently, I'm on one today somehow. I thought I was being normal, but
this is not normal. Not for you.
I'm sorry for being so animated and
That's a good
whatever.
word for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
animated.
Okay. All right. I like being animated. I'm
No, that's
a
fine. Like
peacock.
I
I'm a
think
peacock. You gotta let me fly. You gotta let me fly, man.
penguins.
You say that to me all the time, so I'm giving it right
Yeah,
back
but
to
I'm
you.
actually a peacock. You could be a penguin. I like penguins, but anyways, welcome to what is it? Ornithology, Locked On
Sure.
Ornithology, the study of
Sure.
birds.
Yep.
Yeah, penguins number 1, peacocks 1A.
Waddle, 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 waddle. That's gonna do it for
Penguins
our
are
show.
adorable.
Thank you. So, are you saying that I'm a penguin and I'm adorable? Is that what you're saying on today's
You're
show?
one of the ugly penguins. You're one of the ugly brown ones. Mm. Oh no, those are seals.
Right. Right.
You know what? Fine, whatever. Fine. Penguins are awesome. You can be a penguin. Goodbye.
I love seal. Baby. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on Locked On Mariners.
Oh, boy.
Colby Patnode. I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez. Look at this guy. Dane Gonzalez. That is DANEGNZLZ. There are no vowels. It is my last name, just no vowels. That's what my Twitter handle is. Dane Gonzalez. Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok as well over at Locked On Mariners. That's one word, Locked On Mariners. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen. Catch us after the game tomorrow for a reaction to the Mariners series opener with the Tigers. But for now, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.